하지 마. 내가 안 된다 했잖아.
Well, hello.
I was really getting into that song, man. Like, I was watching some stream and it was playing in the background. I was like, who is that? So I was like on ChatGPT going, I'm only human. I need to be loved. British pop band, because I knew it was British, right? And so it had to be, somebody from that time. And I said, oh, here it is now. And then I looked at the lyrics and said, I am the sun, I am the hair. And I'm like, it's not this hair. It's like someone, like the king's son, someone who's taking over. And then I just realized that that's what, just when I was playing it just now, like Okuri-Inu is basically kind of like that. It's about the hair, right? So welcome everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the Monkey Show. We are here. We're joined by our good friend, Woodrow, also known as Meme Lord Woodrow, and as I like to say, Brother Woodrow. And also Lesmat's in the chat. Hey, Lesmat. Woodrow says hi. Wherever you are, welcome. It's been a while with the interviews, and I do love interviews and talking to people who are creative. It's been a lifelong thing for me since I came back, and I've been doing it for a long time. Like goes years back. Actually, it might be decades back, where I just sit down with people and talk about things that they that they're interested in, what they've got themselves to doing, whether it be filmmaking, whether it be pottery or glass blowing, right? Anything creative. Now it's comic books. And so today I'm going to be talking to Woodrow Lansdale. I kept saying Lansdale and writing Lansdale everywhere. But thank you for joining me, guys, and welcome to the Monkey Show. Woodrow.
Oh, thank you for having me. Doing good. It's good to be here.
Thank you for joining me, man. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just talk about yourself, and then we'll get into the whole, talking about creativity and how you got to creating Okuri-Inu, or how do you say it?
Right. Okuri-Inu.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So let me take myself off and.
All right. So I'm Woodrow Lansdale. I'm a cook by day, an indie creator by night. I reside in the sunniest place for the shadiest people, Phoenix, Arizona. And I spend most of my time writing scripts, cooking food, and making memes. It's kind of what I spend my time habitually living on the internet when I'm not making food. In terms of comics, I was introduced to the medium through Turok Son of Stone, like the old Dell and Gold Key comics, or my grandpa's. I used to trace Spider-Man and the dinosaurs in those books and like tell my own stories and make them fight each other and shit like that. But what really made me fall in love with the comics medium was actually Dark Horse's Aliens vs. Predator. I wasn't like the biggest comic fan. I didn't read a lot of Marvel or DC, but I liked kind of the darker stuff on the fringes. Usually when people tell me to do something, it makes me not want to do it. So yeah, all the popular stuff I kind of sidestepped. But those are the comics that kind of made me fall in love with the medium. Right now I'm currently working on this property, Okuri-Inu, The Wolf Within, and I've got a free book you can read right now, Okuri-Inu Tokyo Blues. The link I believe is in the chat right now. Hey, what up, KSS? What up, Plasma? Good to see you guys. Yes, there it is. This is free, 32 pages. Nice little taste test of the writing, some of the art here. This is a different art team than the main book, but it's gonna break off into two series going forward. So I had the two teams working on different parts of the story. So, but yeah, that's basically all about me. Yeah, that book looks so good.
It does, and that's what really that's what I remember. Like I think it was KSS or maybe Elasmat who shared it a couple of months ago, maybe about 2 months ago, and I saved it and I was like, I need to check it out and then have a chat to you, right? And but then because I try to plan like an interview once or twice a month, and then do busy with everything else. But I was reading this last night, early this morning, because I wanted everything to be fresh in my head. And I love the artwork. I love the character design. I love the colorist on this as well. And even the lettering is really good, right? The changes and everything that are between the human elements and, the yokai elements. It's just really good how everything is like comes together. It's not like very, monotone when people who do lettering, and I have a pet peeve about lettering, so it's really, really well done. Like everything here is just really gorgeous. I can't wait to grab this in hardcover, to be honest. Not hardcover, like physical, right?
Yeah.
Because there's something about physical that digital will never touch, because it doesn't feel real until it's in your hands and you're holding it.
Yeah.
So let's you talked about how your this is granddad who had the Gold Key comics from the 50s and 60s. So let's talk about how you got into it at an early age. What made you become create stuff for yourself, and was art the first thing you gravitated towards, or was it the storytelling in the comics?
So it was actually kind of both, because I would trace, like I said, but previously I would go through like my grandpa's comics. He had old issues of like Spider-Man and stuff. I would trace the Spider-Man in there. He would actually did not like me touching some of the other comics that I would touch, because I didn't take care of my stuff as a kid. I was like a little Tasmanian devil, man. I tore everything up, burned everything. Like it was just, I didn't take care of stuff. They tried to teach me to, it didn't stick until later in life. So, but what I would do is I would trace and then make pictures and then write stories from there, even though they're obviously terrible. But I think I was always into both. But when I started to get into school, I actually focused on the drawing aspect. It's just because I went to college for art twice. I went to Collins College for game art, and then I went to CAC to finish out and just get like a graphic or typical graphics art bachelor's.
Right. So when was that? Like, when was it jump from like just seeing comics just for comic fun and reading to where this is something that you want to do seriously? Because like, I mean, there comes a time when you go, well, is this what I want, or should I go this way? The crossroads of every artist, right?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I started, like I said, it was the game art, and I thought I was going to write and make games, and I was going to college, and you start talking to people in the industry, you start to realize the reality of that industry, and it's brutal. You're probably just going to be a cog. You don't get paid that much. And then I'm looking at my student loan. I'm just like, oh, I don't get paid that much. I'm doing all this math in my head. Like, is this really what I want? And then there was some family tragedy, and I just decided to leave college at that point. And then I went back for just to get like a basic degree in graphic design, which it was at the local community college, CAC, Central Arizona Community College. And, pretty basic stuff. But what made me want to really start writing comics is I thought, okay, I can't do games because I didn't finish. And there's a lot that obviously goes into a game. I'll try writing scripts and see if I can pass the scripts around. Because I had come up with the idea that I'm going to write these stories and just sell them off and just come to grips with the fact that I don't have control over it. Right. But you start seeing, that's when I started to notice like all the woke stuff, right? I noticed it in movies first. Well, games technically, then movies. Then I was starting to see, okay, so it's not going to be realistic because the stuff I want to write is not fitting in with the culture right now. So maybe I'll just do comics that seems more like I could have it reliably do it. I could actually find the money to do it. I could find the artists. And at the time, I thought that was going to be a lot easier than it was. But we all, I'm sure, have had troubles finding editors, artists, letterers, all that stuff. But I basically, like a lot of people, thought I don't like the stuff that's coming out. I have all these ideas I've been putting in folders for years since I
Sure.
was a kid. So why not try and do something with them that's viable, something that I could actually afford, to produce. And comics are still expensive, at least the way I want it to look. It's definitely
Yeah.
expensive to do, but I don't know. If it feels fulfilling. It feels good to make something, because that's why I like working in the kitchen. I like creating food. Like I like feeding people,
Right.
and there's like a spiritual fulfillment that comes with that almost, that I enjoy. And so making the comics, it just kind of felt like an extension of that. Like I had to get these stories out. I had teachers in school tell me that the stuff had potential, so I just
Yeah.
figured, why not see if I can actually hone that skill. So I've just been trying to figure out the actual techniques and all that stuff to writing, because
Right.
it's its own thing.
Did you do some writing courses as well, or did you? Because like
Yes.
I'm looking at your work, it's really good. Like it shows that you have some learning involved. Because I know, like, I can tell when someone hasn't, who hasn't learned how to be a writer, right, or how structure works and everything. And I'm looking at yours, I'm like thinking, this is really good, and I can tell that there's some sort of learning involved in it, that you've paid real attention to the art of comics and the writing of comics. So where did you go to study to write, or did you take courses?
So it was just basically in school. I would take them as my electives every year in high school,
Right.
because it was that and art and PE. I always had to do writing, always had to do physical, and then always had to do it with the art.
Yeah.
And in college I would take creative writing classes, but I never like went outside of that. It was always just part of the curriculum I was kind of already a part of as electives. But
Yeah.
that was like always one of my favorite classes. And a lot of in high school I was failing my English class. Just because I would fall asleep. There was my first class in the morning, so I would get in and I would fall asleep. And then we hit, I was going to fail, but we hit, was it Shakespeare, the Shakespeare category. And I got really into the poetry and all that stuff, and then his stories. And
Right.
I started writing for some of the assignments. And he's like, if you stayed awake, you could probably have an A in this class. And I was like, yeah, it's just crazy life. At the time I was partying a lot and just chasing girls and booze and shit. And he passed me because he gave me like a extra on the final to do like a creative story. So I wrote like this 1-page story, because I had to follow like the structure and stuff that we've talked about, and 3-act structure, and do it quick, succinct, compressed. And he enjoyed it. He said there's obviously I've had a lot of work to do, but he liked the characters and all that stuff, and he could tell that I was passionate about it, because he thought he saw something. And so he let me pass because of that, but I was supposed to fail. He gave me a D in the class, but like I had missed so many assignments, there was no way I was making that up, even if I had gotten an A on the final. So yeah.
What is it about, like, telling a story that, for you, what is it about telling a story that makes you interested in actually creating something?
That is an interesting question, because I've tried to figure that out myself. And I think it's the psychology and the creating a puzzle and solving it. Like, for instance, for this book, it was the question, because I have all these ideas, and one of the questions that came up with the kernel of this story was, what happens if a hero says no to the hero's journey, like almost his entire life, or he just keeps saying no, and eventually circumstances are going to throw him into that journey, right? And he's forced to do it,
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, okay. And then I had this idea of a character who looks not human, and he struggles with the fact that he doesn't feel human, but he just wants to find peace, because everyone who knows him, they know him from the way he looks, or his past, his reputation. And he just kind of wants to find a place where he's accepted. And the only people who've accepted him in his life are basically his love interest, and then a couple of students and a mentor that he trained with, which you'll find and learn about in later volumes. But it's figuring out that problem, like what would happen if the hero said no. So I kind of worked through that with the idea of this character, to see how would it play out, what would his life be like, and I think it's the psychology of figuring that out that makes me want to write and keep going. I just love character.
I think, as an artist, like, do you like the thing about world building and creating characters and stuff? It's like you feel like, back in the '90s when I was playing around with clay, I felt like I was a little god, right? You're creating this piece of clay out of mud and soil and so on, and you're building these things into form and make functional. At that time, it was like a huge vase, meter tall vase. Do you feel that when you're creating these characters, that they become part of your little world, your little universe? You're the god of that universe, and not in some sort of anti something, but like just fact, like you're the creator of that world. And how do you like go around treating them with like you would as a god? And I like, does it feel like you're creating something real when you're creating stories, right? Because I think a lot of people just think like, I'm just going to tell the story and this is it and move on to the next one. Or do you feel like it's very important to you and they become a part of you because you're creating these things and they're part, because you came up with it? Sorry about the model question.
No. I think I know what you mean. Well, there's a thing that writers say when they say like, you'll know a character when they start talking to you, right? Or start talking for themselves, something along those lines. And I didn't understand that for a while. Like, I just didn't get like, I'm putting the voice in these characters, like they're never going to speak to me. I always thought that was a dumb concept until you start really getting into a character and writing them over and over and over and trying to figure that problem out. Then you almost start to think as that person. And you start to notice like, oh, this is how they would react to that situation. And to me, it feels real. It feels like it's an extension of myself, not to say it's a self-insert, but you sort of become that person for a time, and not in like a weird actor way where you're, meta acting or whatever. But
well, you're method acting, and you're like, okay, this is what. But I think because I find like when I'm like most of my I've talked about this on the streams that like a lot of my stories come from dreams, like little snippets of dreams, and I work on it, and then suddenly, as you're writing, as you mentioned, like those things become real to you because it's something that's come out of your head, and then they become to have their own family members, and then you start caring about them and stuff, and then you wonder like, well, she wouldn't behave this way. I was watching this movie last night, right? Called The Wailing. It's a horror movie from South Korea, and I got so furious at times with the parent figure, the father, because I was like, in Korea at the age of 18, everybody goes to soldier school, or go to it's compulsory, right? For 2 years of your life, and I'm thinking like, how did the writer not understand that these characters have all these male characters have actually gone through discipline and training, so that when they behave in these circumstances, whatever circumstance the world puts in front of them, whatever the writer does, they will behave a certain disciplined way. They won't just fall apart at the moment of this conflict, right? And I feel like it so infuriated me because I'm like, this guy who's a well-known director in the horror scene, yet he didn't understand the people that he was actually, because it meant like it was all about him driving the story rather than the characters being driving the story, right? Because that's why we say character-driven story, not the story driving the characters. And I think a lot of times people, it's just about story, but they're not thinking about the character that drives them. It's like, well, what is the purpose of this, this baby being born this way? Like, with your character, right? With the yokai, what is the purpose and how will he behave under all that weight of not having, I don't want to spoil the story, but not having what he's had because it's been taken away from him. And because he's empty of that, how does he behave? And it's like, you have to get into like you're saying, psychology of it. But a lot of writers don't freaking understand that because they don't actually think of that character as something real to them. They just see it as a character that they just write about, rather than that's a character that's a part of them that becomes real. Like for me, like I was saying, like about how as an artist, way back, going back all the way to the 90s, when I was sit there with a friggin', meter tall clay ceramic pot on a wheel, and I'm hand building, and it's full on, like every single piece is a part of me putting it together. And because because of my hand, I have to use coils. I can't throw, so the wheel doesn't spin on its own. I have to spin the wheel. So I would sit there going, I am now building this piece, and everything on this is me putting it into it. That's why you see, like in modern comics now, that you don't feel that way about those characters anymore, because what those characters were created initially, these people who are writing them now don't have that same connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it about your character that connects you to that universe that would make I know I love it because I read it, right? That would anybody who just picks it up goes, well, this is what this character is like, is going to be about, or the story is going to interest me about. We talk about pictures and stuff, but like, what would drive just a normal person who's always been reading freaking Marvel or DC and doesn't know anything else, but what would Okuri-Inu be for someone who's always read that sort of stuff? And what do you think would bring them to reading your book, apart from the freaking gorgeous artwork, right?
I'd like to think that, so for me, the thing that I sort of resonated with the most in the character is is the running away from responsibility.
Yeah.
Right. So there's like this choice he has, and he chooses that it's better for everyone if he just disappears.
Yeah.
And that is, I feel real. I feel like I've known a lot of people who just do that. Things get hard. They have a choice to where they can take responsibility and grab life by the balls, or they can disappear, and that's what they do. They just fade away. But I think this has a deep theme that people who feel that way will connect with, especially when the story starts to pick up and you get into the next 60 pages and you start to realize him making that choice had far more consequences and far more harm than he thought. He thought he may have been doing people a favor, but turns out that may not be the case.
Do you mean like not being there and not being part of their life, doing them a favor by not being there? Or
that's what he thought. He thought that essentially his life has been nothing but chaos and death everywhere he goes. So he just wants to remove that from people's lives he cares about. So yes, he thinks him being away is a benefit to them, and him not being there would be good for him. But it turns out that, it might actually have been made things worse. But that's what happens when there's problems and there's you don't take action, they usually get worse. And this, let's see.
Yeah.
I'm interested in this question.
Yeah, as it says, can Okuri-Inu take out Beast Citizen Road Warrior Drake in one-to-one matchup? It's a long friggin' name, man.
So, I actually haven't gotten to read it yet. I'm waiting for it to get shipped to me. I got the catch-up tier. So when I get all the books, I'll read and I'll give you an honest answer. But as of right now, of course, yes.
Yes, he's stirring up drama.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about like where did the idea for this comic come from, right? Because this is a very different, fantastical comic, mythology, yokai, and I always get confused between yokai and Oni, right?
Oni, yeah. So
yeah, I always get confused about that.
Yokai is an umbrella term for like all of the spirits and ghouls, demons, all that sort of stuff you see in Japanese myth. They're all technically yokai, which are evil spirits, or they could be good spirits too, or neutral spirits. But a lot of the times they're represented as evil. And then an Oni is just essentially like an ogre type version of a yokai. So my character in this, he takes on the physical form attributes of an Oni because he has a yokai soul. So his body just sort of takes on attributes of an Oni.
Right. because I'm a huge like I love mythology. I love ghost stories, horror stories, out of because anime and stuff, and I just find like there's something I've been like really trying to figure out because there's a story I've been wanting to write. It's called Dead Grandfather's Ghost, right? Like for about a decade and a half, that's been sitting on the computer, and I've never, because I don't know much about Hindu culture in the sense of like because I'm an Indian, but like I have no connection to Hinduism, which is the religion of the of the Indian, and so I've been trying to work out in my head how to create a ghost story that is part of that, and I'm like, I just can't because I don't have any connection to it. So how did you, where does your connection to this mythology, this spirit, characters like Oni and yokai come from?
So I've always kind of had a fascination with different pantheons and religious beliefs and mythologies and all that stuff. Like in school, one of the things that interests me besides Shakespeare was like the Greek mythology, right? Comic book was always cool because it always felt like the American Greek mythologies,
Yeah.
like a more modern version of it. And there's like, you can get lost. You don't know where to start. There's so many stories and all that stuff. But with the Japanese mythos, there's something about it that how like everything having a spirit and like the yin and the yang, hone tatame, which is kind of like the cultural how they
Right.
talk in Japan, public speaking versus private speaking. All that stuff is really fascinating to me. Being an American where everything is just like freedom, loud, obnoxious.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but just if you look at things on a cultural, like,
Yeah.
that's how Americans are seen.
Yeah, we can always tell an American in a room. In New Zealand, we can always tell who's the American. Like there could be 1,000 people, and we'll know. And I think it's because there's so many people, right? It's the same with like when you have like Chinese people or people from India in a crowd, because they're so used to like not being heard, because if they speak quietly they won't be heard, so they're loud. And because there's so many people, whereas in New Zealand there's so much room, we all spread out, so we don't talk so loud. Like I usually end up, people keep telling me to talk louder because I always talk a certain quiet tone because I don't like to attract attention to myself. But I think, was it like these mythologies, like a lot of people don't read mythologies, and you can see their works don't have anything of what's that, like meat to them, right? There's no sort of like bones to those meat on the bones to the stories, because they don't have anything of I guess they don't have any learning as such, right? They haven't read the books, they haven't looked at the Greek mythologies or the Norse, and so on. Or, and even now, like, because a lot of what I notice a lot about Korean storytelling, there's a lot of Christianity involved in that. So you'll see Christian themes in their stories, as well as everything else, right? All the spirituality and stuff and myths in there. But also, you see the same also in Japanese now. However, I noticed that looking through it, like if you watch as much, because I watch a lot of anime, like when I'm working, I might go through a whole 12 episodes of a series and then move on to the next one. So let's say 5 or 6 the new series a week. So I noticed that there's like amongst all the yokai, all the spirituality, yin yang, and all the myths and stuff, you'll always get a little bit of Christianity chucked in there, like especially with the fantasy things. Like you say, oh, there's a church in there, right? So all the isekais always have churches in there. It's like, I'm always going to go like, why are you putting the church in a story about a parallel universe in an isekai thing where somebody dies and goes there? And you've got all these other, they get there because of some mystical, spiritual being, that God or some demigod that's put them there. However, now you get there, there's a church. And usually it's like a 70-30 where the church is bad, 70 being that they're bad. And it's kind of interesting when you watch it in the whole scope of things, and you notice that there's also always this underlying kind of like an anti-Christian, not anti-Christian, but anti-church element to anime and manga. Have you noticed that? Like, do you watch a lot of anime as well, or?
So I don't watch a whole lot. I have watched my fair share, but um, I think that I kind of think that's pretty typical in most media nowadays, just because of the cultural place we're at. I feel like people,
Right.
because of I don't know if it's the connection to like technology and the material,
Mm.
or what's the cause, but I have kind of noticed that in just media in general, where it's like if there's heavy religious themes, it's almost like it's either a nuisance or bad, whether it's like
Yeah.
the evil or just not genuine. So it's just I've just noticed themes like that behind the stuff in a lot of stuff, not just anime.
Yeah. Yeah. I just found it strange that it's in anime because it's like anime's, art. It's like so kind of like more. It kind of feels like it's coming closer to Western culture than the Japanese culture, and I hate that. I love the divide between the Western and the Japanese when it comes to anime and manga because it's what makes me love it more.
Mm-hmm.
Now, oh, I try to get around the question there, but like let's talk about world building and the creation of the character, right? How did you come up with the character?
So, like I said before, I kind of always wanted to play with the tragic hero archetype that rejects the journey. But the core of the character actually came from one of my other loves, which is tabletop gaming. It came
Right.
from a Shadowrun game my friend was playing, and I came up with this character who was, he didn't have the demon spirit stuff or anything like that. This was just a Oni character, and in this world, he was working for the Yakuza, and they kept him basically on a leash and in a like locked away like a dog, because they're in this world there's like elves and dwarves and stuff, and the Yakuza are basically like they're humanist, so they don't accept any of the genetic mutations, the metahumans. So
Right.
since I was a metahuman, they basically I was good at my job, so they still let me live, but they basically I was a dog. My name was Inu in that, so they just called me dog.
Right.
And so that was another kernel to where I kind of drew this character from. I like that idea
Yeah.
of what would that be like if you're someone who was raised in like a room, given a weapon, trained to use it, and then sent out to kill specific things, and then come home when your job's done. How would you act? And it was a pretty interesting puzzle because adding the Japanese culture in there, like they like to honor their family and they want to do good for their family, so he would fall
Yeah.
into that pretty easily, at least how I saw it in my head. So,
Yeah.
but it's about, okay, so he falls into it easily. Where does it go from there? And in the next, like, who does he become when he's like in his 30s? So this is about, I say he's 27 here in this
Yeah.
story. And then when we pick up the 60 pages that follow this, he's actually 37. So there's a 10-year jump that takes place between Tokyo Blues and The Wolf Within.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at that, I was like, "This is pretty cool" because I love Blade Runner. Blade Runner is my number one favorite movie of all time, right? It's like, director's cut, the normal cut, and the
Ooh.
final cut, right?
Which is your favorite?
All of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like anything to do with Blade Runner, I'm there because like Philip K. Dick is one of my number one sci-fi writer of all time. So it doesn't matter what version is, as long as I can, I can get access to it. The other number one favorite anime manga is Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell,
So,
yeah, right.
so when I looked at this page here, I was blown away that like the whole visual look of it, the cyberpunk, this futuristic flying cars, flying cycles and stuff, really blew me away. I just love the whole mashing of mythical creatures in this fantastical setting of the futurist setting of cyberpunk techno world. Do you want to talk a bit about the world building when it comes to this sort of thing, the sci-fi elements of this world?
So another big influence to me growing up was Star Wars. Before Disney got a hold of it, I was a big Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
And I always liked the idea of not just Earth, but just a bunch of weird planets with weird species, and I wanted it to be in a world that felt like Earth wasn't the only place. Like there was definitely other metropolises out there that were alien, and maybe some of them were even close to humans. So I put, you've got the Japanese myth with the yokai and demons and all that. Then you've got aliens as well. But cyberpunk, it's definitely in a cyberpunk world, but I wouldn't say the story is a cyberpunk story, because it doesn't have like the classic tropes necessarily of a cyberpunk story, although it does kind of have like the transhumanism in a way with the spirit stuff, but it's not based around technology. So
now, one thing I love is weapons and vehicle building, and like you look at this the elements here, you've got beautiful technological, vehicles and stuff, with the cycle here, and then obviously, and before I was showing the cars and stuff, and then the armor and everything here, like it's kind of a mashup between, the Japanese culture and the futurist culture. Who did you design the elements yourself, like the design of the helmets, of the vehicles?
No, I definitely, I left that all up to the artists, because one of the things I did learn doing this is that the artists, they do like to, I mean, obviously you can have character designs and stuff, but when it comes to designing the world that they're playing in, they want to be the ones drawing it, right? They don't want to just be told what to draw. They want to actually help you create and live in the world with you. So that was actually a learning thing going into it, because I tried to be over prepared coming in, right? I thought this person would want like all this stuff. And I did. I had I had a couple of ship designs, character sketches from other artists that I got to do, just like the character turnarounds and stuff. And then I sent that to Bruce, and through working with him, I kind of found how he actually likes to work, because I made a lot of assumptions that this is how they want it. This is how they want it this way. And I made a lot of wrong assumptions, but it was good to get with Bruce, because I learned a lot about like how to structure my script. For instance, I'm not going to be doing panel scripts anymore. I'm not going to lay out, there's 5 panels on this page, this is what they are. I'm just going to say action synopsis, this is the dialogue, you have fun, basically, is what I want to trust the artists to do all the pages and stuff on their own. But I did originally try to like nitpick everything and try to design every little detail, and like this is how the panels are, just because I thought that that's what they would want. But turns out that was not what they would, a good practice.
Mine's basically like scene, panel 1, day or night, whatever, and then this is, and then now go do something with it. And if there's anything I want changes, I'll let you know. And I think that's the other thing about creators, right? And like, if you work with enough writers, is that if you work with enough different artists, you notice that everybody's different, and all the artists, they come from different backgrounds of their learning. Like, because I work with people from around the world, you find that they have, depending where they come from, they have a different style of background on how they do things, how they've been taught. And I think that's also, it's good to know, how artists work, like you're saying, but also the fact that sometimes, depending on the artist's background, they might not know much about what you're talking about either, right? So were you able to with finding Bruce, did he understand what you're trying to do with the yokai side of things, or the Oni side of things on the story, or did you have to kind of send him across research like you already had to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for here, and this works here and this doesn't work here?
Yeah, so I actually picked Bruce. He was doing this book called The Wreck, and he had a couple pages up of that on his pin tweet, and I saw that the way he drew tech originally, and that's what originally drew me to him. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have some tech in this. I want it to look lived in and kind of rough, kind of like Star Wars, right? I said Star Wars is an influence, so I was like, okay. So I reached out, and he actually didn't have a whole lot of experience with like the spirit side of things, so that was something that like I had to kind of like explain, like that, this is what the yokai means, and this is kind of how I see this working. Like the spirit isn't like a physical wolf that walks around or anything like that. It's more of just like this looming dark cloud over the character sort of thing. So yeah, there was a little bit of like kind of having to explain how I saw the yokai and on that in that side, but everything else, Bruce has been drawing comics for a long time, so I was very happy to have his experience on my side and to actually just be able to learn from him too. Taught me a lot. So.
So KSS was saying here, I really don't care for the voiceover narration in the original Blade Runner, but I think I prefer the original movie film over the director's cut only because I prefer the more ambiguous open ending. Yeah, well, you probably think like, well, is he or isn't he, right? Is he a cyborg himself or isn't he? You know, is he one of them or not? You know, but I think with your universe, with the Okuri-Inu universe, do you have like a Bible as such, like what that universe is built, what works in that world and what doesn't, or are you just building it, making it up as you go along?
Well, it did start as I was just kind of making it up as I went along. I was just kind of trying to see, and I would try to break things to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And then I kind of found out where my boundaries are and what I shouldn't do for either a writing issue. It might write me into a corner or something like that, or contradict something I'm trying to do later. But other than that,
what sort of so what in this universe that you built, what works and what doesn't work? Like what sort of elements work? Like you see flying cars, you see like the mystical beings, but there's also other planets, right? I noticed from reading it that there's these other planets. So how do they fit into that?
So in this time, it's the 42nd century,
right?
And Earth is basically like a trade zone at this point. It's like a universal trade zone. So there's lots of aliens in and out of Earth, and Earth has kind of become just one giant city at this point. Not a whole lot of wilderness left. The other worlds are basically it's part of the scale of the big plot. There's other things that have happened on some of the alien worlds that we will see. And that is currently happening on Earth. So that's kind of why I wanted there to be other planets in this big scale. When I get to play with aliens, I get to do space bounty hunter stuff, which is one of the core of the characters. But the scale of the B plot, right? Because you have the A plot, which you see in the Tokyo Blues, and it continues through in the 60 pages. But then once that all concludes, that first A plot story, then it opens up, and if people are invested in it and they want to see more, if the story resonates, I can expand the world, because the world B plot will blow up, which is like the sin industries, the yokai infesting the planets, and how their presence on a world turns it into basically a husk, a dead world. So.
But the other side of that is that, like, because you got all these other worlds, they have their own friggin' history, right? They have their own characters there, and I love that side of storytelling. Is like when you open up the other parts of the world and other planets and universes, because you can go, well, while this is happening on this, while he's living here, there's some other chick there or some other dude there, some other baby being born there doing their own thing, and I think a lot of people who write comics don't think about that. They don't think about like other things that are happening that can lead them later into the story, that could touch, cross paths, and you go, oh, okay, because that all works towards the whole, what we call world building, right? To make your character even bigger and your universe even bigger. And do you see, I mean, like, you did say that there could be other things there, but do you see writing a prehistory to the blues? Like what happened before these people turned up here, like, because like, the Earth is just a city now, but like before it became a city, right? Just what happened to make it become a city?
I didn't have any plans to tell that story specifically. That was more of just a backdrop for the world he was living in. didn't really have any plans to do stories in that his part of history. But I do like stories that they'll tell this part. Game of Thrones kind of does that, right? You get a little bit,
Yeah.
like you get a Song of Ice and Fire. You get like some of the other stuff with the prehistory with the Dragon Riders and stuff like that, the Targaryens, and you get like these, and that informs this part. And then I like that, but I didn't have any ambitions to do that with this story. This story is basically focused on Takeru, which is the protagonist, and then his partner Cleo in this. She has her own adventures in this world too, because I was originally writing a comic with her and her love interest before I hopped on this one, but the team to that book kind of fell apart while I was putting this one together, so I just kind of switched. But those are really the only two stories I have, or the only two characters I want to follow in this specific world, because this world is just about like fun bounty hunting, crazy over the top action stories, but the hopping through different universes and stuff like that. And then you have Takeru, who's like the tragic hero, and then you have Cleo, who's more of like the outgoing, extroverted, more typical hero, but she's a side character in his story. So
now there's a question here from KSS. Says, how much leeway do you give your artists? Are you a particular or want them to follow what you wrote exactly, or are you open to them sharing their input?
I prefer that they'd share their input. Like I said, when I first started, I wrote everything out, which I thought would be a good thing. But over time, I could tell that it was kind of frustrating, Bruce, that like it seemed like he didn't have anywhere to go. Like you said, there's no leeway. So I kind of switched to I was like, hey man, if you think something won't work or you don't want to do something this way, let me know. And then he started opening up more about certain things, and we went back and changed panels and all kinds of stuff. And I prefer now to give the artists as much leeway as possible, which is why I switched to just a action summary and dialogue, and then let them sort of put the pages together how they want. And then I'll just, if there's something that I see that won't work for whatever reason, I'll bring it up and we can adjust from there, obviously. But for the most part, the artists know way better than I do.
Yeah. I mean, it is a visual medium, right? So I mean, the other side of that is that like the artist can't see inside your head. And it's something that my artist friend said, hey, look, I can't see inside your head. You got to write down what you're looking at, and then give, let him work out what's going to work on the page. So I think having too much of a structure, it's like a recipe, right? When both of us are cooks. So you have the recipe, you have the ingredient, but it doesn't always turn out the way you want it to, because you're always adding something to it to make it a bit more tasty, a bit more spice, or a bit more stock and so on. So it's a bit more to your liking, rather than just like, here it is, chuck everything in there and hopefully it becomes this. And I think you can see that in a lot of artwork, right? A lot of comics where it's like they either give them nothing and leave it all to the artist, or they give them too much. I remember like looking at Alan Moore, and he's got like, his scripts are like huge, like overly detailed. But then when you look at the art, it's very simple. It's not as detailed, right? But like because the people who he works with, they already know what he's like and they know what he wants before they get the script, because they understand, having worked him for decades and stuff. I wonder like whether a lot of indie creators actually understand the mentality of as working as a team with your artist or not, right? Whether they understand why it's important for the art to pop out, to be to be as good good on your first book. I mean, always your second. My first book sucked, because your first book's always going to suck because you're trying to work it out. But with a bit of learning, you don't have to have your first book suck. But like, you look at this image here, right? Just the crashing and everything, and how everything, is coming apart. So you got the cycle goes into the front of the car, dude goes flying over. It's a beautiful freaking, a motorbike on a road thing, but it's not on the road, so it's in the air, so but it's got that same elements. And I think the problem is that a lot of people who do sci-fi and fantasy, they don't use realistic elements, right? So with this, like you said, like the whole car is going to crash, the middle of it's going to crash, because off this, and then also there's all these things that are going to be flying away. I just love this. This is such a awesome, beautiful movie set type, visual cinematography scene. And when someone who understands their art form, they understand the art form of creating, because comics is art. And I think a lot of people forget that. It's like they kind of demean it as like, oh, it's just because it's kids read it, then it's not worthy. But there's so much that goes into creating and making it look as good as it does. And why comic readers have a passion for it, especially those that like love it for the art form and not just it's just something to read on the day when I'm bored. Do you with your background, do you with art, with writing, and all that you've learned about all the mythologies and stuff, do you think that it's I think I'm going the wrong way direction with it. I'm just thinking like, where do you see yourself with this world? Like, do you see yourself, I mean, like, we touched a bit on it, but like, how far do you see yourself going with this world, right? Do you like go do a couple bit and that's it? Do your 60, how many books are you looking at doing on this? Or is this your one thing that it's going to keep building and building?
So it definitely has an end. There's a definite end to this story that I'm really happy with. I can't, it's one of those things where like, they say, what do you do when you write? I always start with my ending and work my way back. When I figure out a character, I start, how do I want the story to end? And then I work my way forward and figure out where the beginning is and all that stuff and where the arcs line up and timing everything. But
yeah,
it's, sorry, what was the question? I got sidetracked. I'm actually
I'm just saying like how, I'm just thinking like, how far are you looking at taking this? Because I think it's limitless, right? Because of the universe you built. It's like this beautiful, limitless universe. Because it's not always that way when you're telling a story. Like some stories just go, okay, there's 4 issues. That's it. That's all that story that's about, because it's a closed story. Whereas like when you've got something like this, where it's like this huge universe that you've opened up, you can just carry on doing this for the rest of your life, right? Like that's, like you got like with Pokemon and stuff like that, and you got like, what they would do with Marvel and DC, they just keep writing and writing, but it's like this, they're not really telling new stories, they're just regurgitating the same stories in a different way. Whereas with this one, because you've got such you've built a universe that is so rich and has a world building elements to it that is so open world, like they say, right? That you can just keep telling stories in this world over and over, but they're new stories. They're not like the same stories because of the characters and the way you've structured this world. So I was thinking like, will you, do you see yourself writing for a long time in this world, or do you just like, okay, I've got 3 books here and I'm done, now I'm going to go do something else?
So with this story having a definite end, Cleo's story, on the other hand, is more open-ended and is more of a episodic,
right?
Sort of like like more like the show, the Pulp Fiction, like that pulp action where it's the weekly story. So that I could write forever, probably. The way I want to do it's like an action comedy, and I would love to write that with the aliens and heists and all that stuff. Lots of fast ships and racing and all that. But as far as Takeru, his story does have a definite end, and in terms of how many books, I planned it 3 volumes, but you know how things are when you write. Sometimes there's other things that you're like, oh, this definitely needs clarification, or I need to expand on this. So 3 volumes was my original idea, but everyone starts with 3, so who knows what it'll actually end on. But I don't know if I'll continue to tell stories with this character specifically. But you're right, the world is so big that I could just keep telling stories. I could go to a different planet and be like, how did this bounty hunter get his famous reputation, and you could keep telling all kinds of stuff. Hey, what up,
Now,
Blizzard?
there's case to say something here. It's like as a writer, how difficult is it for you not to fall so much in love with your characters at expense of the story?
That's like one of those things that people do where like that's one of the ways that people get Mary Sue's is like they think their character's so awesome they don't want anything bad to happen, so they try to give them like all this plot armor or all these abilities but you do have to learn to like temper that love for your characters, because most creators that I know also love to put their characters through shit more than like protect them. It's almost like this character's life is not fun. So like if he was a real person and ever met me and was like, you know, why did you do all this to me? What am I going to say? Because it was more interesting. Like, so it's kind of an interesting teeter-totter where it's like you don't want to be too just edgy and fucked up for cruel's sake. You don't want to be too nice. You don't want to protect them, make sure nothing bad ever happens to him. I think the harder part is learning what to not tell about him, because you can't tell everything. Like the whole killing your darlings thing. That's probably harder.
I think you gotta, I mean, that's the thing about being inside their heads, right? Like, how much can they handle? Like, if you're just going to keep trying to put a character through misery, like, well, sooner or later, the character's going to say, like, I don't want to be in this world anymore, right? There is that element to it as well. It's like, you don't want to, like, because there is the brokenness, like I was saying, that movie I watched last night, the Wailing, right? At the end there, I'm like, the dude did so much to this character that I don't even care for this story anymore. You know, because he just kept putting, the director the story just kept putting him through so much shit. I'm like, it's not fun. It's too much confusion at the end, and also there is no healing at the end, because there is a thing where you want like a closure, right? You want it to end in a way that it's actually pays off for the audience and for yourself. I think a lot of times people want, you know, talk about killing your darlings. They don't care about the audience. They care about themselves. Does it pay off for me? You know, and it's like, well, if it pays off for you and it doesn't pay off for the reader, then it's only for you. You might as well just left it in the, you know, for yourself. I remember like being on a stage once and just saying a story and then jumping off the stage, and this guy came up to me. He's like, so he talks about he was like, I don't want anybody to know about, you know, to read my books because I'm right. Oh, sorry, I don't want anybody to have. I don't want to take it to anybody else because I don't know what they will do with it. So therefore, I will never take it to anybody else. Like, it's so precious that he didn't want to. He couldn't see himself sitting on a stage talking about his story or offering it to somebody else, like saying, you know, hey, can you read my story? Because he's so worried that they won't like it, or that they will change it, or they'll tell him to change it. And it was just so precious. And I think when you do that, it's like, well, what's the friggin' point of art anyway, if that's how you see it, right? Because art is about communication. So if the reason we do art is to say, hey, here, look what I've created. Are you able to find some joy in this? Are you able to find some, you know, misery and help yourself out of that? You know, kind of like put up a mirror to yourself, right? And so there's got to be a payoff. And like, the guy was so consumed in his own head that the story meant so much to him that there was no point offering it to anybody else. I wonder if, like, I know there are stories that we come up with that's not meant for anybody else, right? It's just for us to just get it out of our system, right? So do you have any stories like that where you're just like, okay, I'll just write this, get it out, but here's the story for everybody else?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really feel like I do ever write solely just because I want to get something out of my head and not give it to an audience. I always felt like the people who, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, but I do feel like some of the people who create things and are afraid to have people look at it are only afraid to because they've attached like identity in like part of their identity to it. So if something says that this is bad or this has bad qualities that need to be changed for it to be better, then they think you're saying that they have qualities that are bad that need to be fixed, which is probably true. But a lot of people don't like to look at that mirror, like you said. So, but interestingly enough, when you said earlier about like how much can you put on these characters until like either the reader or the character themselves don't want to be in the story anymore. That's one of the questions I try to ask with the whole Okuri-Inu story in general is like this as a tragic hero or a reluctant hero, like where is that breaking point and what does that look like? Like what does the breaking point mean? Is it a complete giving up? And if you do completely give up, how do you come back from that? Where is like you said, where's the healing from that point? So I'm pretty excited with this story, especially for like my first real produced, story that I'm going to actually give it to the public. Like you said, I've done a lot of stuff that I've given to my friends for us to just have, and like, but I've never really posted anything anywhere or wanted to publish anything until 2015. So I've been working on basically this and then the Cleo story since then. So 10 years of slowly building the world and the story. So
that's the other thing, right? To build something good, it takes a long time. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I don't mean like art takes a long time. I mean like actually building the world, building the stories, building the character, giving them, putting your ideas into them that works, that may work or may not. Because like a lot of times, some ideas you put in there, it's like, actually, I'm just going to put that on the back burner. Maybe it might not even work for this character, right? So like, a lot of times I write scripts and dialogue, and I'm like, this doesn't work here. Cut, paste over there on a site, another file, and leave it sitting there. And then later on, I'll find like, oh, it fits to this character now. Now this works here. So that's the part I mean about like, it takes time. But I think when you're building your world, like we talked about structure and stuff, is there some is there certain places that you're you don't want to take break the world, like things that you can do that like doesn't actually fit in the universe that you created? Have you come across some of that sort of stuff where like, oh, this doesn't work here, that doesn't work there, in that universe that you've created?
Actually, yeah. So when I started building this, the character had a lot more comic booky powers related to his demon aura. And a lot of those powers were taken away or made like completely passive and not, not as overpowered. Because he could like, in my mind, he had like the ability to astral step, right? Because he could step into the spirit world, and so he could like teleport, and he could like send out his aura and possess someone else, because demons can like see your sin, so he could like take that sin in someone else and like possess it, and then control them like a puppet. But all these things were, like you said, they were taken out of this and delegated to other yokai and other characters, because it's funner for him to fight against some of these things. And two, you don't want him to be able to fucking do everything. You start writing and you realize immediately, if you pay attention, that, oh, why doesn't he just do this, or why doesn't he just do that? If you're asking that question, something needs to go. Like if there's a, well, why doesn't he just do this? Either he needs to do that, or that thing that's allowing him that path needs to be rethought. So that's one of the things I think people need to be paying attention to, especially with like the comic book stuff, because it's really easy to like when I mean comic book, I mean like more the superhero fantastical side of it, because it's really easy to write yourself into a corner. Like Superman, it's hard to write Superman stories, right? You have to focus on other things besides like him and the powers, right? It's like other people, and so it's, you got to really know what you're writing and what you're trying to accomplish, because I do feel with a lot of the indie stuff too, a lot of stuff I've purposely bought from like the CG scene or other indie scenes, whatever, Kickstarter. You can't read a lot of it in terms of like getting through. It's like either like the eye line is completely broken, not just like a little off, but like to the point where it's like you have to keep going back, or sometimes the dialogue is like structured in a way that's kind of like either people don't talk like that, or that's just hard to read the way it's structured. And so there's stuff like that in indies that you get a lot of the times that it was something that made me really I really just wanted to pay attention to like all that stuff. I'm sure, like I said, it's my first book. I'm the one controlling the whole project. There's going to be things that get through, and it's not going to have be 100% perfect. But I'm so happy with the way Okuri-Inu turned out over the past 5 years, 6 years now since we've actually started line work. That I'm like exhausted, but I just can't wait for people to see the full volume. It's so good.
Yeah. It is good. Like when I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, this is really good. Everything works here. Let me get away from that one. Here we go. So it's just done so well, and it's not like just another average indie book, right? Like what I call like a DY, INDY. It's actually, something that you put up there with Marvel and DC quality wise, and that's what like I kind of want. The INDY or DE to be like, because I think a lot of times mashing the two together is actually diluting one or the other, right? And I think there's a lot of dilutions because of a lot of techie DY that's come into the IE, right? It's more like, I guess it's like, what was it? It's like zines, right? It's like zines trying to come into the indie comic scene, and it's like there isn't enough time and effort taken to make good comics, and especially when you're crowdfunding, because people don't really know what it's going to be like, and there's a lot of fallacy as like you think, oh, it's just because it's part of this thing, then therefore it's all good, and it's like you get caught up in like the quality, like I mean, like I've seen posts of people, saying how much money they spent on something and realize it was such trash. And I'm like, this is why people still go to comic book stores, right? Because they can actually see what's in there before they buy it.
Yep.
And they'll, and they will always do that because because I can see it, and feel it, I know what it is, and therefore I will spend my money on it, right? That's like when I get, like the other week I got, hold up.
Yeah, that's actually why I did Tokyo Blues. What he's talking about is like in the comic store, you can go and you can actually see what you're getting. You can read Tokyo Blues for free. You don't got to spend money on something you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
I was just saying that's exactly why I did Tokyo Blues, is so people can actually read through it, see the writing, see some of the art. And one of the things I did just share a file with you that I can flip through, because this art that where you've been showing is Ed and Mika Babrusco. They're the team that does the Tokyo Blues, and then this is Bruce and Mika. So Mika does all the colors on the first two stories. But
can you zoom in on that, please?
Yeah. This is sort of Tok's ship coming back to Earth.
It looks like a Borg ship.
And there's like bunch of not a Dyson sphere, but what it's called.
Yeah, they had a Borg ship that has a Dyson sphere on it. I was like, but then I noticed the world inside it. So because Earth is now a city, right? Mm-hmm. So here's what I was talking about, right? So this is the last interview I did was with Roger Mason, and Roger, I was going to go out of my way to buy it myself because I like the line work on this. Actually, I got some freebies in here. Hold on. They sent along with it. But so you look at this, right? Let me just grab this away for a second. So you look at the line work, and this is basically just the style of the work here. It's just like British style, right? So there are certain things that you see that they may look like, it's they don't look the way they should, but it's actually for the universe it's set in. This is why is it mirrored anyway? It's hopefully you guys have not seen it mirrored, but
I think it's good on our end,
right? So The Mice, great book, man. And because I was going to go out of my way to buy it because I thought it was such a good book. Read because he sent me the PDF when I was reading it. I was like, wow, this is like really, really well done. But then he sent it across as well. But the other thing this is what I mean about your work. It's like when I was looking at it, I was like, man, this is so much time and effort has been put into this, and it doesn't read like doesn't look cheap, and not only that, the writing isn't cheap and hollow like I find in Marvel comics these days, right? That there is like, it's just like Marvel comics is like their writing is so cheap that I feel like I've been ripped off when I buy it, so I don't buy mainstream comics anymore. Like it's been about a year and a half, I think, where I've just totally went cold turkey and cut myself off. It took a while.
That's the difference between passion and propaganda, though. That's really what it is. Like, these people, I don't think they have passion for it. They're just trying to use these characters as mouthpieces for their own politics.
Well, I think it's also lazy as well, though. It's also laziness. It's like, oh, I got 5 other books I got to work on, so I'm just going to put like a little bit of dialogue here, leave everything to my artist to draw because, hey, people just do it for the art, right? It's like, no, we don't read comics just for the art. We read, we look at comics for the story, for the characters, the universe. And it's like they've come to a point where it's just the art will sell it. Mm-hmm. And that's why they put out 100 variant covers, right? Because they think, because the story isn't selling it. So they got to put different covers on there so that the covers will sell it. And that's something that I've been thinking about myself, like having more covers, if that's, offering variant covers is great because it's indie comics. You can, there's only 25 in the entire world of my one cover, right? And it's like more important, like you can have 100,000 covers from a Marvel comic, but there's only 25 of my cover, right? But doesn't mean shit if my story's bad, right?
Yeah.
If my art inside is trash, it means nothing how good that cover is. And I kind of find it like really strange that people, especially in the indie scene, they're looking for, who's the big name person I can have on my cover? Because then also my comic is like, well, why would you go to a big name comic and pay that person for the cover art? Why don't you get your freaking cover and your interior comic art better and pay someone to do a better job on that than worry about the cover? And I think it's so sad that like somebody would pay about $250 somebody to do a cover, but they won't pay something like that to an artist to do interior art to bring up to quality.
And interior art is, I don't want to say it's harder, but I do think it is harder because you have to tell a story in the whole page. And lead the eye, whereas a pinup, you're still kind of telling a story, right? You want the picture to tell a story, but it's it's a still. You can take time and all the little details and really work on it. But I feel like with the interiors, you got to get it done fast. The eye has to be led properly. Like I feel like it is harder in interiors. So I feel like you should pay your interior artist good. I try to when people have given me, at least for this book, when people gave me their page rates, I'm pretty sure. In both instances, I paid a little bit more than what they said their page rate was, just because, I like to support indie artists. Before I ever was doing this, when I would go to the Comic-Cons for the first 4 years before, so 2015 and the 4 years before that, I would go to Artist Alley and just buy art from people to support the artists. And it was kind of cool to still do that, but do that and also get something in return that's like I own. It's my own property that it's like something from my head actually living now. So it's pretty cool. It's been fun.
Yeah, I think the whole 20, 30 friggin' offerings of variant covers, that's 20, 30 different covers that you got to pay people to do, right? Cover art to do that, like you could have actually spent to do a decent interior art. And I think that's why like a lot of people feel ripped off when they look at the beautiful cover art and then look inside and they go, what the hell's this shit? And that, because like I'm being in sales for decades, right? 15 years. I learned about bait and switch because I hated when people, bait and switched on me. It's like, oh, this is what it is, and this is what. Wait, I thought I was getting a Wolverine book, and now I'm getting what? Some book about some 3 girls, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, where's Wolverine?
Yep.
But I wonder, like, I wonder if we, the whole crowdfunding scene is being seen as a more of a grift rather than actual art anymore, right? It's more about, hey, that's where we go to get some free money, rather than, hey, that's where we go to showcase our work, our passion, and our ability to create something good that's long and lasting. Whereas either it's like, oh, one and done, and that's where we go, right? The other side of that coin is that there is the confusion that a lot of people don't understand what comics are, right? Because they think, well, all comics are just Marvel and DC. That's got to be just Marvel and DC. That's what comics are. But it's not, because like everybody around the world does their own form of comics.
Yep.
And I think the idea that like limiting it to just American comics has actually made people a bit stupid, to be honest, I think, because, we're down here in New Zealand, we're the bottom of the world. We get to enjoy everything that the rest of the world does, right? So we're like a melting pot. And I wonder if if more people opened up their eyes to what's out there, that they're actual learning how to tell stories, learning how to draw, learning how to be better at what they're trying to do at, would be much better for the indie scene.
I think so. And I know a lot of people have their issues with like manga, but I think you could learn a lot from just reading some of the older, not necessarily the modern stuff coming out today, but even like 5 years ago, it was still really good. Because there's been some woke stuff steeping into Japan's culture too. But also, like you said, the Euro market for comics, I don't know if the woke stuff has terribly infested their comic culture and their graphic novels like it has all of our stuff. I'm sure it's probably felt it, and it's probably always been a little more left-leaning or liberal than American comics in general, just because it's Europe. But I'm sure there's tons of stuff, and a lot of classics come from Europe. So why not expand beyond American comics and just find other things out there? There's gems all over the world to be found. Yeah.
I think for me, like, I love anime for the storytelling, right? Learning the character developments and stuff, and actually seeing the different elements and the mythologies. And for me, it feels like my brain expands a bit more, whereas like if I'm reading comics, all I'm doing is just the same characters, same stories over and over again. Yet if I'm like I was thinking about yokai, and there was Mr. Masune's Book of Friends or something like that. Let me just see if I can find it. I think it's called Book of Friends, and it's it's one of my favorite like manga series. I think it's Friends, Book of Friends, or it's about yokai. Natsumi's Book of Friends. Yeah. So there was this one here, and I've been watching it for decades now. So let me just bring this up. Let me just grab this out. I was going to get you to zoom into this before we go ahead. Do you want to zoom into there? Because I'm the second panel and the third panel. Just look at the details on that, man. Right? That's what I mean. Like when I was looking at the work, I was saying, man, this is quality stuff.
Yeah, Bruce did an awesome job.
Love this, like the tech, sci-fi elements, man. It's just so cool. I love weapons. Weapons is one of my favorite things. Creating and designing.
That was actually one of the fun parts of this, and you get like the classic, right, Western inspired standoff.
That's so cool. Oh, that's the other thing. I was watching a whole bunch of Western horrors this week, and it's just because somebody had like a top 10 Western horrors. So that's the other cool thing is like, there's so many different ways to tell a story rather than just leaving it all into like modern storytelling. Like that's what I love about this story. It's like you're mixing up like the mythology and spiritual world with a like a futuristic sci-fi world. It makes it so good.
Yeah, it's been fun mixing those elements. It does take a lot of like what works and what doesn't work, like you were saying before. There's certain things to focus on, and like I didn't want to focus too much on the cyberpunk sci-fi aspect. I wanted it to be part of the world and definitely have a life in the story, but I didn't want it to be mistaken for a cyberpunk story, right? I didn't want people to think they're gonna get like a Philip K. Dick story, you know. It's more of a dark Japanese story, like a tragic tale, which Japanese are very good at doing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, that's why I love reading those stories. Like watching anime and watching, you know, South Korean movies, live action, or animation, and Japanese as well. It's like it's such a. I think you can learn about a lot about people's culture through their art, and I think that the problem here is that a lot of people. And I find this more in the American side of things than the rest of the world, right? Because we're so used to like getting stuff from Britain, getting stuff from Japan, from Korea, from Canada, from America, South America, right? So we're so used to like enjoying whatever. It's like, you know, going to a like a food hall, right? So you got like over there is your sushi, over there is your Korean barbecue, over there is your Mongolian beef, you know, whatever. And then next to it, you got a curry house, and then next to that, you got a McDonald's, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, it's just a smorgasbord of beautiful work that's out there available to us. So there's this one here is called Natsumi's Book of Friends. This is like the whole yokai thing, right? What I love about this is like just the whole. Let me put that away there. So just the beautiful creatures and things that you get to see based around the Japanese stories that we never know about, the yokai elements and stuff, the oni and so on. It's just such a, you know, you get to see, it's just, I don't know, I think there's so many great things that are coming out there that are very quiet and silent. They're not all like, you know, Dragon Ball Z screaming, yelling. And this is the thing about this one, it's like a whole lot of like series of stories of a guy just traveling, you know, in the past, say like around about probably Edo period, maybe about 1800s or 1900s, and just all he's doing is, you know, seeing different, you know, trying to help people. You know, it's like episodic. So he's trying to help people from week to week. And so, you know, it's just like this elements of mythology, legends. It's just so. I forgot what it's called. Kappa. So I watched the entire movie based around a kappa the other day. Right? It's called Summer. Let me see if I can find it here. Summer with I can't remember now. Annoying me now.
Did they have to do with the cucumbers, where cucumbers are weakness, like putting a cucumber on the ground? I think that's what it is. And I gotta look it up again. But yokai always have cool little like tricks to surviving encounters with them, and like the actual Japanese myths. They're pretty funny.
I had the trailer here. Let me just show you this trailer because it's like because I don't watch movies I don't watch anime movies. It's every once a month I'll do that, but I love watching because I like long form stories, right? So watching I think it's called Summer with let me find it. Give me 1 sec if I can get there. Where is it? Trailer. Summer Days with Chiku. So this is it here. Man, I can't. It's annoying me that I can't remember it so quickly. But here it is here. And this is what I love about that. The fact that there's so many different characters out there that they're able to tell. They're able to tell stories about these elements, right? Because it's such a rich culture, and it's like Hinduism and Indian culture is also rich as well. But I have no connection to it because I left Fiji when I was like about 7 years old, and so I don't have this connection to the rich cultural, religious history, elements of there. But so there's a kappa there, right? So it was just this. Hold on, let me just put this up and show you guys.
しょ。だからクーって名前にしようと思って。カッパなってもどこにもいねえんだ。みんな人間に殺されちまったんだ。
カッパのことで話が聞きたいんだけど、俺たちとクーは違うんだ。
俺はどこ行ったらいいだ。うちにいればいいじゃん。
Man, I've always thought of them as pretty like dangerous creatures. So to see it with this little kid having it with his backpack and stuff, I'm like, oh no. Because I always like, you know, like fairy tales, right? Fairy tales have like the kid version, then the old kid version that's like brutal, the old German version.
Yeah.
The old Japanese fairy tales, you know, or the yokai myths and stuff, they're pretty like there's a funniness to them. Because I think with the kappa, right? If you see a kappa, if you like the trick to surviving, if I'm remembering properly, is like you put a cucumber on the ground and then it bends over to pick the cucumber up and dumps the water in its head out. And then it
needs the water.
So that's how you like survive it. And then with the Okuri-Inu, the cool thing is with this thing, the reason I actually picked this yokai in particular is its mythos has a like kernel of Jungian philosophy, like with the shadow self in it. At least that's what I found in it. It might not have been intended that way, but so the Okuri-Inu is a wolf or a dog in this case. Inu means dog, but it could be both in this scenario. And but it stalks people who go on these secluded mountain paths, and it's said that it can be both like a blessing and a curse, because if as you're walking on your path, if you trip and stumble, or aka like make a mistake in your life, the wolf is going to be the consequences and come and devour you. But the trick to surviving that encounter is basically like when you trip and stumble, you're supposed to make it seem like you meant to do that, like owning your mistakes. You basically, they have these little phrases that they say in Japanese. I can't, I think it's like shindoa, no, something like that. But it basically means like, oh, I'm tired. And so it's like the wolf thinks, oh, he's just taking a rest. He's not weak, right? He didn't fall. He's still in a place of strength. And so it'll leave you alone. And the benefit comes from if you just do that, if you just stay true and brave and don't get scared, then it will actually protect you as it stalks you, because no other yokai or animals or bandits will be able to mess with you, because if other bandits come out, it'll devour them or any other animals. So I took that, and I liked the idea of like, okay, so the mountain path is like your life, and your steps are sort of like each choice, and if you don't accept your failings, then the consequences of life will come and devour you. So I was like, oh, I like that. And I basically took that for this idea where this character, he has this other presence inside of him that is more bestial, more feral. And if he doesn't control his emotions or his physical state, this entity can basically just take control. And there's a reason that it acts the way it does, and why he's so scared of it. But it's all built into that Jungian philosophy of like the shadow self and self-reflection and all that stuff.
And that's why I love the magic of like other cultures, right? There's like, if you there's so much rich history and storytelling that's available there that you can grasp, get something out of, because everybody's got such a rich history. And I think by limiting ourselves to one thing and one genre of storytelling, or one, like to say, getting stuck into just say all you do is just superhero comics, and that's all you do, and all you work with is like, oh, what power will do this, what power is that, who's gonna. But like when you look at this one, right, when you're talking about Inu here, right, with the dog, and the fact that there's so much more to it than just, oh, there's a guy just running around with a sword and fighting people.
Oh yeah.
And that's what makes it rich. That's what makes it, when you look at it and read the story, and you find that like, wow, it actually not only does the art look good, but there's a story that actually, you're learning as well. That's what I love about like reading new stories and new indie comic creators and so on that are quality. Is like the work has been worked out and has been thought out, not just like, oh yeah, it's just got a power and he flies around and does this, and it's like, well, what's its limitations? We were talking about earlier about Superman, right? They found that Superman was OP, so they had to come up with the friggin' different types of kryptonite, to limit it. And so otherwise it'd be like, oh, he just beats everybody up all the time. and he always wins. And it's like, well, that's just a boring story about someone, because it's you need. I think the thing about human nature is that we need what's it called? Diversity? No, not diversity. Diversity. It is diversity, isn't it? Not the difference, but like the actual conflict. We need conflict to make us more mature, to learn how to deal with things. Because
Duality?
no, like more about conflict, or like something pushing against this so that we become stronger against it. Yeah. I think sometimes, like, if we don't, if we just go along with everything, we become very wishy-washy, right? So I think the elements are like that's like if they left Superman to be this powerful thing, it would be so boring and wouldn't have lasted this long, because and even like with Batman, right? If they didn't create a family for Batman, he'd be just a dude skulking the shadows, right, beating up on people, and there would be no human side to him. And I think a good story has to have all these different elements, and they don't always have to have the same, OP power to make it work. So I'm glad, I enjoyed reading this book, man. I'm like, so, I was like, okay, I got into one stage and I was like, okay, I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to go and read the next stage, because I do that a lot with my, when I'm doing interviews. It's like, because I don't want to know everything before I go into an interview. I want to know what I need to know, and then ask the rest from for the person I'm interviewing. So give us a pitch, as we finish here. Actually, not a pitch, sorry. We'll do like a 5 minutes of words of wisdom, like 3 to 5 minutes of words of wisdom. So you get a chance where what you've learned, what you want to impart through this process, as a writer, as a creator. Or as KSSA is an albatross around our necks.
Yes, we both just recently learned that that's an actual phrase.
Yeah. That's from it's from Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
Yep. Yeah.
Iron Maiden. That's where I first heard it. I didn't even know it was a real thing, a real story or something back in the 80s. But so I'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that, Jim Pied, whatever you think, you want to leave us with. And hopefully everybody that's watching, thank you for watching. Hopefully you got something out of it, but also please go check out, actually I should put that up there. Had a plan to put it up here, so let me show you the actual page for that, which is here. So this is a link tree where you can go onto the mailing list, the YouTube channel, the Twitter channel, and Instagram for Brother Woodrow here. So of course that's where you click on and you get the comic that I've just been showing. And also, get on the mailing list, right? There's something I got to think about as well, is getting on the mailing list, because, that way you get information about when it's going to go on, when the release will come for the print version. And that's the thing, right? So before we go into that, the words of wisdom, tell us a bit about the whole, how your process, why you did it free and put it out free rather than just like do a Kickstarter and stuff. I mean, like straight away without,
So the reason for that is pretty simple. I, as a consumer, like I mentioned earlier, where I would buy these projects, and we're paying a pretty good price for these projects. These aren't just like your cheap indies at the LCS, right? We're paying a lot of money. So getting a bunch of books that I was unsatisfied with, I said, you know what? I don't know if I can purchase these books the way I was before. I want to purchase from people I either trust or who have work out that I can sample. So then I was like, okay, well, if I was buying from me, how would I buy from me, right? So then I was like, well, then I'm just going to put a sample out there to make sure that it's the best that it can be for what I have left in my budget and everything, right? You have to figure out how to make it work, because doing stuff for free, I admit, right, you're taking a hit for the money, right? There's no way of getting around that. So I just figured it was worth it, essentially, to just invest in my story and me and put it out for free. And plus, also, it's not just all, sunshine. It's people will give you feedback, which is what you need too, because like people will tell you what's confusing about the story, because you need to know that. You need to know what people find confusing. You need to know that you get across the themes and stuff that you want to get across. If people take away something completely different from your story, it's not necessarily that you failed, but you didn't do a good enough job. And that people can judge, do I want to spend money on this? So that's ultimately why I would like it. So I gave it to my possible customers.
Yeah. So now with the other side of this is that you're building up a website and you're sorting everything else. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? What comes next?
So I decided to do my own website, and I actually have Ray Haylock working with me on building it and putting it together, because I just want to be able to have one spot for all my stuff, my lore, my comics. I'm going to have merch for the Meme Lord stuff too up there, like shirts and stuff that aren't just for my comic. And so it's going to be chaoticneutralcomics.com, but there will be like other aspects of me on there as well. So it'll just be like my personal site. And I wanted to do that mainly because in this day and age, it's getting very easy for people to just like press a button and shut you out from the internet. There's shadow banning, or like they can hold your money, and that stuff gives me like crazy anxiety. Some people are cool with that being a possibility because they're they don't rock the boat, but I rock the boat a lot. So I just want it. I just want control of everything as much as possible.
Yeah, I noticed that with like with Patreon and with Steam, because I play a lot of games, visual novel games, and I'm actually I co-wrote one, and then also I've got one coming up that's going to take about 3 years to write. Right, so I've got a year before that actually as I'm a co-writer on it for somebody else, and so. If that gets shut down, a 3-year worth of work, and that gets shut down, that dude's screwed, because he's paying me. He's paying his coder, right? And he's, whatever else he's got to do. And that's why I get pissed off when people don't realize, like, how bad it is when you've spent years working on your work and somebody just goes, oh, sorry, we're just not going to let you make money off it now. After you've been making money off it, and you're about to put another chapter out, and they go, sorry, not only can you not make money off it, but now none of your customers or none of your readers will ever get access to that as well. And I love that's why I think that everybody should have a website. Like I'm always like, whenever I come up with something, I'm always like buying the domain names, right?
Names. Yep.
Yeah. And so like, and it just sits there, and I'm like, okay, so if I don't use it for a year, and I realize that, well, for 2 years. If I don't need it, I just let it go away. But if I need it, I'll just keep putting money into it, because I think having your domain, and this is what I think everybody should do this, right? If you're coming up with a comic book name and something, go research it, chuck it into ChatGPT, go, hey, is this name already available or not? Because you don't want to run across and put out a book and then somebody's got a name already out there. Mm-hmm. The other thing is like, there is this underlying thing that the indies are doing, which is to get ahead, they're parodying other people's work. But then when those guys call up on them, they go, oh, look at me, woe is me, right? Because they're using that negativity to bolster their people coming to their site or coming to follow their product. And having your own website is very important, like you said, because you are now telling people that you actually believe in yourself, that you actually are professional about it, because a lot of people are not really professional in the indies. And I think because they're not professional, it's actually putting people off them, and it's ruining it for everybody else, to be honest, because I think it's important to be professional if you want to be an artist. Because otherwise, you might as well be what we say, right, back at art school, a starving artist. You say you're an artist, but you're not doing the professional work to be an artist. You're not doing the business of to feed yourself. And I think that's where having your own website, right, comes into feeding yourself and paying your bills and stuff, and not just letting somebody else run your show. And earlier on, you said about like near the start about seeing how like if you offered something up to the mainstream to do your work, if you gave this to the story to somebody else, to your publisher, say like in the top 5 like Image, these Dark Horse, or so on, they would want to change something somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that because I was writing a story about John Constantine way back, maybe about 15 odd years ago, maybe even longer than that. Yeah, about 15 years ago. And I thought, and at that time, 275 issue of Hellblazer was coming out. And at that time, they said, well, he's going into DC now. And I'm like, screw that. And I realized that there is no control if somebody else owns your IP.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was like, yeah, no. And what they did was they closed down the whole book. Like they got to 300, like the longest running non-superhero comic that DC had, or actually the entire world had, right? Non-superhero comic out of America that, at 300 issues, and they just basically closed it down after that. It's like, we could be up to 400 issues now. It will be the longest running, like, I think that's why you got to own your stuff. And I think a lot of people don't realize why you got to, you got to copyright your shit, why you got to trademark it, why you got to get your website, because it's business. Believe in yourself and put your money in yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now let's do the words of wisdom. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'll see what I got. Let's see if I can talk for 3 minutes about what I learned.
Okay, so I'll take myself off. I'll give you, I'll take everything else off and put you center stage. So,
all right, words of wisdom from Woodrow. So a lot of people that I know, because I'm a creative, I've had a lot of friends who they're always like, I want to do this, I want to do that. It doesn't matter what it is. It's always talk. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to start a band, write a script, write a book, have people help me edit it or whatever, and people don't realize what they're getting themselves into. But if you have that drive to create something, it's worth all the work, and you have to start to get it done. And once you start from there, don't get stuck and stop. Like, let's say, for instance, you're writing a story. You're getting through Act 1. You don't know how to transition exactly from Act 1 to Act 2. But you know what you want for Act 2 and Act 3. Just go on, just pass, just skip it. Just go past. You can always come back. Never get stuck on a part because linearly, I can't fucking speak. You want to go in order. You don't have to. You can move past that. If you can't think of a character's name, just give them a working name. Give the thing a working title and move on. Come back to it. You'll realize that when you walk away from something, let the idea sort of percolate while you're doing other stuff and come back to it. Your subconscious has kind of worked through it and solved most of the issues. You just got to let that quiet voice have its quiet time and think it through. Don't try to force things when you feel stuck. Just kind of move on, come back to it later. Another way to help with the writer's block is to, you can do something different, right? Like go out and change up your stimulus, what you're getting for input. But for me, it was always physical activity seemed to work better. It's like that seems to help get that quiet that the subconscious needs to work through whatever problem you're stuck on. That's how I finished my first real script. It was a 113-page script called Savage that I wrote for just me and my friend. Essentially, I was going to try and sell it at one point when I worked through it, but I kind of went down the path of comic books after that. But yeah, those are my wise words. Basically all I got. just if you want to do something, you got to start. And if you're going to start, you should probably finish. And it's easy to get stuck and not finish. So move on and come back. And before you know it, you'll be done and you'll have something.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Woodrow the Wise. So there's a link here for everything, for the link tree. Here it is. So please go check it out. And hey, 34 pages of free comic book. You can't lose, right? Top tier art, not just, it's the artwork is awesome. That's what I love about this book. It's over, the whole thing is a well packaged, what you call like a well packaged product, right? If you want to say product, because it's just really, really good. Overall, everything about it is good. The art, the writing, the lettering, which I'm always, one of my pet peeves. Bad lettering is, I just hate it. Everything, the design work on this is just, everything is perfect. Like I'll put it right up there with Marvel and DC.
I appreciate that.
Quality wise.
The lettering is Rick Joseph. You can look him up on Twitter. He's good.
Yeah. And there's something like a lot of people don't think about either. Like there's always some element of the comic book people forget. Like the product is the entire thing. The letters page, the credits page, everything. It's just one entire work, right? It's not just like, oh, the art's good and then the story's shit. So you got to like really make sure that if you're out here expecting people to pay for your work, well, do the work, make it quality, and so on. All right, so as we finish off here, I just want to leave everybody with this. Nice words of wisdom, better than me, I would have said, remember, wherever you go, there you are. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Woodrow Lansdale. Please, guys, go check it out. Links in the chat, links, everywhere else. But thank you for coming in, checking us out today, everybody who came out. And if you're watching on the rewatch, thank you. Leave a comment. And, if you're out there and you have a good product, comic book or manga or whatever, and you want to come on and be interviewed, have a discussion, how I do things, nothing about gotcha or trying to put anybody down, because I love talking to people, and I think having a good discussion is always a learning period. Like for me, like the fact you learn something every time, and you learn from everybody if you're willing to learn. And so thank you, Woodrow, for coming on. Appreciate it. All right. Ka kite anō. Catch you on the flip side, guys. Wherever you are, be loyal to your Monkey King. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.